Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pesthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare.
Hi Krishna, welcome to everyone. Thank you for attending the Thursday night reading of Sri Caitanya Caritamrta with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. I just wanted to make a request for the newcomers here. I know Acharya Prabhu, I don't think he's been here before. If you have a comment or a question and you write in the chat box, to please do so when Maharaj is not actually reading from the chat box, because it does something weird technically, or you can use the raise hand feature or anything like that. I think that's all I have to say. Anyways, thank you very much. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. And welcome to all. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Just a quick health update because it affects logistics and people want to know. I continue to have no fever. Dr. Maipur Chandra is monitoring my progress. I have a sore throat, which is making my voice sound terrible. But apart from that, no other problem. I've tested negative for COVID-19, and we're carrying on. That's it. Om Jnana Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Meditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadhati Shapadaktikam. Maybe we'll leave it at that. No, we won't. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Datam Stam Savivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Vrijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishapanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Devacha Patitam Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. La la la. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're continuing to read this important section of Chaitanya Caritamrta concerning the Diksha Guru, and here specifically the Shiksha Guru. Shiksha Guru ke ta jani Krishner Sharup Antarjami Bhakta Shreshta e Dvi Rup. One should know the instructing spiritual master, the Shiksha Guru, to be the personality of Krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the super soul and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. As noted, we're partway through the purport, and we're beginning one by learning from the self-realized spiritual master. Maybe I could ask Panchatattva Prabhu if he could read from there.
Yes, Gurudev. When by learning from the self-realized spiritual master, one actually engages himself in the service of Lord Vishnu, functional devotional service begins. The procedures of this devotional service are known as abhidheya, or actions one is duty-bound to perform. Our only shelter is the Supreme Lord, and one who teaches how to approach Krishna is the functioning form of the personality of Godhead. There is no difference between the shelter-giving Supreme Lord and the initiating and instructing spiritual masters. If one foolishly discriminates between them, he commits an offense in the discharge of devotional service.
Good. There are several important points here. The instructing spiritual master is not just instructing, but the result of his instruction is that functional devotional service begins. So the beginning is sambandha, the establishing of the relationship with Krishna, and then abhideya, the beginning of activities in the service of the Lord. The Lord is the only shelter, and one who teaches how to approach Krishna is the functioning form of the personality of Godhead. There's no difference between the shelter-giving Supreme Lord and initiating and instructing spiritual masters. Acharjamam vijani naibramanyeta karachet. It's Krishna who's appearing in all these different forms. So one shouldn't envy the spiritual master or minimize the spiritual master. He's the direct manifestation of Krishna. And elsewhere, as Srila Prabhupada has said elsewhere, there's no difference between the initiating and instructing spiritual masters. They're equal and identical manifestations. I guess that's what is it? Algebra, things equal to the same thing equal to each other. So they're both equal to Krishna, and therefore they're identical, equal and identical. And I think otherwise, discriminating between them, one commits an offense in discharging devotional service. Any questions or comments about that? Okay, let us continue.
Srila Sanatana Goswami is the ideal spiritual master, for he delivers one the shelter of the lotus feet of Madan Mohan. Even though one may be unable to travel on the field of Vrindavan due to forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can get an adequate opportunity to stay in Vrindavan and derive all spiritual benefits by the mercy of Sanatana Goswami. Sri Govindaji acts exactly like the Diksha Guru, Sri Govindaji acts exactly like the Siksha Guru, instructing spiritual master by teaching.
Let's go there just for a moment. This is significant. As we know, there are three different deities in Vrindavan, and there's three stages of devotional service: sambandha, establishing the relationship; abhideya, the dealings begin; and prayojana, the perfection, love of Krishna. As Kaviraj Goswami explains, the deity approached for sambandha is Madan Mohan Vigraha, for abhideya, Govindaji, and for prayojana, Shri Gopinath. The Sanatana Goswami is the what shall we say, the person who gives us shelter. He says, Prabhupada says that, is the spiritual master who gives us shelter at the lotus feet of Madan Mohan. So sambandha, Gyan is possible, especially by the mercy of Srila Sanatana Goswami. And even a forgetful person can have the opportunity to stay in Vrindavan and get all spiritual benefits by his mercy. All right, let's hear about Sri Govindaji. Panchatattva Prabhu, if you would continue.
I was muted. Sri Govindaji acts exactly like the Siksha Guru, instructing spiritual master, by teaching Arjuna the Bhagavad Gita. He is the original preceptor, for he gives us instructions and an opportunity to serve him. The initiating spiritual master is a personal manifestation of Srila Madan Mohan Vigraha, whereas the instructing spiritual master is a personal representative of Srila Govindadev Vigraha. Both of these deities are worshipped at Vrindavan. Srila Gopinath is the ultimate attraction in spiritual realization.
Yes. So the initiating spiritual master is identified as the giver of Sambandha Gyan, and he engages one in the service of Madan Mohan. And the instructing spiritual master is the personal representative of Srila Govindadev. This same Govindadev, or the same function of instructing spiritual master, is taken by Krishna himself by instructing Arjuna. And we'll find elsewhere that he becomes the instructing spiritual master of Lord Brahma. So that this point is made also, that the instructing spiritual master appears in, or that the spiritual master appears in two forms. I think we've read that already in Caitanya, and, that he appears inwardly as the super soul, and outwardly as the spiritual master. And I think I mentioned that purport to Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, where Srila Prabhupada says that the devotee acts properly because everything he does is prompted by Krishna from within. And Srila Prabhupada added on the page proofs and confirmed by the spiritual master. In fact, that's the topic of the next verse. But are there any comments or questions so far? There's something coming up in the chat box. Yes. In the distant absence of the Diksha Guru, we take instructions from Shiksha Guru. But when we get instructions from Diksha Guru, and does the order of the Diksha Guru supersede the order of the Shiksha Guru, considering both are giving different services to Krishna? One point Srila Prabhupada makes is that the spiritual master who instructs usually becomes the Diksha Guru later on. So there's a, what shall we say? The initiating spiritual master doesn't just, we don't generally expect that he'll only initiate. Okay, done. You're initiated. Bye. But he takes responsibility for seeing that the disciple will make progress in devotional service. So that's by instructions also. So that point aside, I think I made the point before that this is sort of a cooperative venture. It's not a competition between different gurus who are like tugging on the disciple. you do this for me, you do that for me. Don't listen to him, listen to me. Srila Prabhupada wrote in regard to Kirtananda Swami, I think, that the Shiksha Guru is the person who instructs you how to follow the instructions of your Diksha Guru. He's not an independent agent, Ford has a better idea. Apologies to Ambrish Prabhu if he's listening. It's not that the spiritual masters are competing and trying to one-up one another, but they're both trying to serve Krishna and the disciple and serve the same purpose. They're all, like there's a rescue team, if there's a fire, then there's the truck with the ladders and all of that. And then there's the engine with the pump and all of that equipment. And there's a whole team of firemen who are all working to put out the fire and rescue the people from the flames. So it's Krishna. It's really one person, Krishna, who's appearing as himself, of course, but also in these two forms as Diksha and Shiksha Guru. So and when we accept someone as our instructing spiritual master, it can be one person or two persons, or there's no limit. We should have that in mind, that we're not judge shopping. In the legal field, they go judge shopping. They go looking for a jurisdiction where they'll get a judge who will be favorable to their case, who will give them the sort of judgment they want. So we shouldn't have that in mind, that I go looking for a Shiksha Guru who maybe can lighten up on my Diksha Guru's instructions, or, give me an out, or cut me a little more wiggle room. That's not the point. Then that's a kind of cheating. Just like kids, they like to play the mom against the dad and the dad against the mom, and somehow wrangle their way. So a disciple shouldn't cheat himself that way by looking to neutralize the Diksha Guru's guidance by approaching a Shiksha Guru who will say something else. Ultimately, we'll just be causing more difficulty for ourselves. But we look for a Diksha Guru who will help me follow the instructions of my Shiksha Guru, a Shiksha Guru who will help me follow and fulfill the purposes and instructions of my Diksha Guru. I hope that helps. Kendra Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj. I wondered if you could help me figure out the sentence there. It's the second sentence in the last paragraph of the purport. Actually, the whole beginning of that paragraph, I'm having some difficulty figuring out the train of thought that leads from a discussion of the identity of the initiating, instructing spiritual masters and the personality of Godhead. And then Prabhupada comes in with saying, he's talking about Sanatana Goswami and someone being unable to travel on the field of Vrindavan. That was a jump that I was unable to take with Srila Prabhupada, and I was wondering if you might help me understand what how he goes that direction and why in this purport.
It's an interesting question. I also found myself a little bit having to sort of cover that ground a little carefully. There's an identity or an identification between Madan Mohan and Sanatana Goswami. That is, that Madan Mohan is the Vigraha for Sambandha, And Sanatan Goswami is the representative of Madan Mohan. He established Madan Mohan in Vrindavan. And so they're approached together. Sanatan Goswami helps us to recover our relationship with Krishna. That sentence, even though one may be unable, seems to be an elaboration on that point, that the Diksha Guru or Sanatan Goswami can help us. We're in forgetfulness of our relationship with the personality of Godhead. That means we're in need of Sambandha Gyan. We've forgotten our Sambandha, our relationship with Krishna. But by the grace of Sanatan Goswami or the initiating Guru, even though we've forgotten, now we can get the opportunity to revive our relationship and stay in Vrindavan also and derive all spiritual benefits. That seems to be, well, that's a start. I don't know if anyone would like to contribute more on that point.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that very much.
Anyone else want to contribute something on that, or
I would.
go ahead?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I don't know why, but it always seems to get to me when I hear these things. You know, it seems like we want to be, or the goal is to be close to Krishna, but we're not there. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, we don't really have a clue, you know, what it means to really be close to Krishna. But there are so many layers between ourselves and Krishna that are also Krishna, such as Sanatan Goswami, our initiating spiritual master, our Shiksha Gurus, other devotees, you know, and it's like you have this sense of separation, and yet there's also connection via all these different devotees and you know, even the Prabhupada, I remember, you know, somebody said that if somebody, like, you know, is a drunkard, if he just thinks of, sees the taste of water, you know, it's that connection. And yet we do have the different devotees and different teachings, and it's very heartening.
Yes, the what is that? Chanaya Karunya Dhanadhanatam. We're in the forest fire, and the spiritual master is getting water from the reservoir of mercy, Krishna, and raining it down on our heads to put out the fire. That's therefore Bande Guru Sri Charanadavinda. Thank you. Anything else?
I really like that expression, travel on the field of Vrindavan. It's such a wonderful, almost poetic expression. Prabhupada does that so many times in his purports. He'll insert something that makes you realize, oh yes, Vrindavan's a real place. We may be unable to go there now, but with the help of the spiritual master, through his mercy, we can actually stay in Vrindavan. Such a beautiful expression, travel on the field of Vrindavan.
Thank you, Panchatattva. It's really true. What a wonderful expression. That something that one can think about and meditate on for a long, long time. Thank you. Anything else? Now there's some more in the chat box. Let's see. Kamalini asks, okay, sure. That's a private message, but sure. Let's move on to the next verse. Naivopayancha pachitim kavayastavesha Brahma yushra pikritamriddha muda smarantaha Yontarbhahistanubritam ashupam viturvan Acharya chaitya vapusha swagatim vilakti. So this verse acts essentially as a proof, as evidence for the truth of what Kaviraj Goswami has written in the verse we've just discussed. Oh my Lord, transcendental poets. Well, maybe I'll, Panchatattva, would you like to read for me, please?
O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. Purport. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 29th chapter, 6th verse, was spoken by Sri Uddhava after he heard from Sri Krishna all necessary instructions about yoga.
Yes, essentially confirming what we've heard. Then the next verse offers further proof about Krishna's acting as the spiritual master from within. Tesham satadajuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. Yes, Panchatattva Guru.
To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Purport. This verse of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 10, clearly states how Govinda Dev instructs his bona fide devotee. The Lord declares that by enlightenment in theistic knowledge, he awards attachment for him to those who constantly engage in his transcendental loving service. This awakening of divine consciousness enthralls a devotee, who thus relishes his eternal transcendental mellow. Such an awakening is awarded only to those convinced by devotional service about the transcendental nature of the personality of Godhead. They know that the supreme truth, the all-spiritual and all-powerful person, is one without a second and has fully transcendental senses. He is the fountainhead of all emanations. Such pure devotees, always merged in knowledge of Krishna and absorbed in Krishna consciousness, exchange thoughts and realizations as great scientists engage their views and discuss the results of their research in scientific academies. Such exchanges of thoughts in regard to Krishna give pleasure to the Lord, who therefore favors such devotees with all enlightenment.
Well, that's another ultra wonderful purport from Sri. How does Krishna instruct? By enlightenment and theistic knowledge, he awards attachment to those who constantly serve him. So that's the first thing. How does it happen? Well, we constantly serve him. Tesham satadajuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Then tadami buddhi yogam tam. I give that spiritual understanding by which he can come to me. And here's, that's followed by a statement that no scholar from the mundane world could write it in his book. Srila Prabhupada says, this awakening of divine consciousness enthralls a devotee, who thus relishes his eternal transcendental mellow. So this is what the devotee can look forward to, that by becoming awakened in Krishna consciousness. He relishes his eternal transcendental relationship with Krishna. Then, how to get there? It's awarded only to those convinced by devotional service about the transcendental nature of the personality of Godhead. What is that? Tara rajas tamo bhava kama lobhadiyas cheta etar lavitam stitam sattve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavat bhakti yogata bhagavat tattva vijnanam nitya mukta sangasya jayate. So these, the whole process of devotional service is there. And one first has to become convinced of the transcendental nature. First, one has to be convinced that there is a personality of Godhead, and then become, what's the word? Enlightened about the nature of the personality of Godhead, to know beyond doubt that he's all spiritual, that he's the all-powerful supreme person, that his senses are transcendental, that he's one without a second, that everything comes from him. Aham sarvasya prabhuvam. Then the pure devotee is always merged in knowledge of Krishna and absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So that's the next thing. Bhaktya shruta grihitaya taschadhana muniyo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashantyatmani chatmanam bhaktya shruta grihitaya. It's not a sentimental thing. But the devotees know the science of Krishna. They know the science of Krishna. And that's described much chitta madgata prana bhaviyanta paraspara. They exchange, it's another wonderful realized paraphrase of Krishna's statement that much chitta madgata prana bhaviyanta paraspara katayantaschamam nityam tushanti cha amanti cha. The devotees take pleasure in discussing Krishna from Krishna Katha. The way scientists exchange their views and discuss the results of research in scientific academies. We see that if you attend scientific conferences or academic conferences, then the scholars are so excited to give their new discovery or their new insight, and to discuss them with their colleagues and to go back and forth about it, so that they enjoy it that way. And here it's interesting, tushanti cha ramanti cha. They take pleasure, but here their exchanges of thoughts in regard to Krishna give Krishna pleasure, who therefore favors them with enlightenment. Krishna likes it. My devotees are talking about me. He becomes pleased. This is not a batch of materialists talking about Gramya Katha. They're taking pleasure in talking about my form, my qualities, my pastimes, my activities, my associates, my abode. So that Krishna becomes pleased, and therefore the devotees are favored by the Lord with all enlightenment. Tesham satadajuktanam bhajatam priti purukam tadami pudiyokam yenamam upayanti. Well, with your permission, okay, let's see, there's Murai Gupta. When Prabhupada talks about devotees like in this purport, I wonder if I'm included as a bona fide devotee, or is Prabhupada talking about very advanced devotees who are free from the modes of nature and realize their spiritual nature? I think he's talking about both. Obviously, when he's talking about relishing our transcendental relationship with Krishna, it's not hard to detect that he's talking about an advanced stage of devotional service. And yet, the beginning devotees also relish something just from knowing I'm not this body, that I'm part and parcel of Krishna. That initial realization, I'm the servant of Krishna, that brings happiness to the devotee, and it's part of the same process. Prabhupada said the difference between the neophyte devotee and advanced devotee is like between a unripe mango and a ripe mango. So it's the same thing, mango, only one is more mature. So thank you, Hare Krishna. Yes, it is encouraging. I thought we'll stop here, and I'd like to invite Apurva Prabhu if he'd like to lead Kirtan just for some minutes and sign us off, as it were.
Thank you so much, and only because my wife is encouraging me to be a little more self-expressed. We'll start with Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale. Please join us. Bhakti Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Sharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatya Desatar Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Hari.
Oh,
Thank you so much, Apurva Prabhu, Panchatattva Prabhu, Ekachakra Prabhu, and Acharya Prabhu for a very helpful comment that the bit about Krishna's enjoying the katha about him is from Baladev Vijayabhushan's commentary on Bhagavad Gita 10:10. So thank you for that, Acharya Prabhu. Thank you all, and wish you all happy chanting. Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mark. Hope you feel better
Thank you,
soon.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Maharaj, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for allowing us to participate more. Your
Oh,
nectar
pleasure.
are supremely awesome. Saying that.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Arjuna. Just keeps getting better and better. Very well.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Jai Guru Sundar Prabhu. And thank you to Dukahanshu Prabhu for taking part as well as Vedas and the lead Prasad. And Meena. Hare Krishna.